Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Candidates aim to close the corporate vote. Vice President Kamala Harris has some back and forth support from her own backyard, Silicon Valley. Former Facebook general counsel and one-time Harris political opponent, Chris Kelly, explains her journey.
There's always been a solid base of pro-business moderates who just want to make sure that we are doing fantastic things to further the economy. And I think that's where Kamala Harris has ended up leading the pack.
And the surprising rise of DJT Media, the parent company of former President Trump's Truth Social, valued as much as X. But what does it do, really? CNBC's Robert Frank reports.
Donald Trump heads into this election nearly twice as wealthy as he was in the last two elections.
Plus, Starbucks nixes olive oil in your coffee, and AI has entered the subreddit.
They were trying to oust you then, too?
They were trying to oust me then, too. 30 years. Keep trying.
It is Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Silicon Valley experiencing some pretty big political polarization this election season, just like pretty much everywhere else in the country. Elon Musk and Mark Cuban have jumped into the fray. Others, like Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, seemingly doing their best to try to stay out of the limelight. Joining us right now on the 2024 dynamics in the Valley and in big tech, Chris Kelly is here as the founder of Kelly Investments. He's Facebook's former general counsel and chief privacy officer, now involved with crypto for Harris. Good morning to you.
Thanks so much for having me.
What do you think has happened in the Valley? There was always sort of a sense that it was a libertarian environment for a long time. Then there was sort of a view that it had moved very left.
Right.
And now it seems as divided as ever and maybe has moved right. I don't know.
I think that there's been a lot of movement from folks who had a more libertarian viewpoint to adopt some more conservative positions or what Trump conservatism has come to look like. But I think that there's always been a solid base of pro-business moderates who just want to make sure that we are doing fantastic things to further the economy. And I think that's where Kamala Harris has ended up leading the pack and is actually drawing people, including Ben Horowitz at Andreessen Horowitz, back into the fold a bit.
Yeah, can you explain what happened there? Because we talked about it at the time when Ben Horowitz and Mark Andreessen came out quite publicly. For former President
Trump. A full podcast.
Yeah.
And then I think that Ben has known Kamala for years, and I think sort of said, hey, there's a real possibility that she's going to win this thing, which I still think is the most likely outcome, and that she actually has been pro-innovation over time. And
okay. By the way, you're a numbers guy. You just said you think that she's going to win, and you feel confident about it. Why do you feel confident that we look at obviously the polls? You can look at betting markets. You can look at all sorts of. You're in the crypto business. I don't know what you think the Bitcoin's rise signals.
No, I think that what's happened is I also know a lot about politics and what it actually takes to win a race. And she's just got a much better ground game than he does today. And the reason he's melting down right now on Truth Social is that he's behind in Pennsylvania and he knows it now. So I think you're going to see a lot of fulminating this week, and I think that you're going to see a big turnout. But I think that she's certainly in the better position. I'd much rather be her than him at this point.
Chris, just in terms of what we have seen from the Biden-Harris administration and what you see at the Department of Justice, going after some of the big names in Silicon Valley, maybe smaller entrepreneurs there are in favor of this, but how does that play out among investors? Not to mention what you see from Lena Khan, too.
Exactly. I think there have to be a variety of discussions about the way that this administration has gone about particularly in the crypto businesses. I mean, that obviously
Gary Gensler at the SEC.
Exactly. Gary doesn't have any fans in Silicon Valley, and he shouldn't. It's been a regulation by enforcement is always a failed strategy. But Harris has signaled that she wants to make sure that we are innovating in blockchain, that we are leading in America on that, and as has Trump. I mean, he's come around after calling crypto a scam to being quite, aggressively in favor of it, which I think.
But how does she feel about Lena Khan and the Department of Justice, and wouldn't?
So that I'm not sure about. I mean, I haven't talked to her about it. We built a relationship after I ran against her in 2010. That's what I left Facebook to do, was actually to run for Attorney General in California against her, and losing the Democratic primary after I think making a decent showing. But I think that there are a whole bunch of agreements among moderate Democrats and moderate independents that we need change in that area, and I think that's been expressed to her by Mark Cuban and by myself and others, and I think you'll see change. I'm not sure that there will be a replacement for Lena Khan, but I certainly think there will be a replacement.
So you're a moderate Democrat, right? And you ran against her. Did she run as a moderate Democrat?
At that point, I wouldn't say that she did, but she was in the law enforcement.
What was she then?
So she had been the San Francisco District Attorney.
So she was not moderate.
I wouldn't say that she's not moderate at this
No, back
point.
then.
No.
But you run with the right or left of her? You were totally right.
It's a little bit hard to say. I ran to a very innovative strategy, being skeptical about her coming out of the San Francisco political establishment,
Right.
That she would be innovative. And as it turned out, as Attorney General, she ended up doing some quite innovative
But
things.
now you view her as a moderate
I do,
Democrat.
at this point.
You do?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. How come that there are so many people, you just think it's just nasty political rhetoric that she's a far left Democrat? She has had positions in the past that were far left. Many.
Yes, that's true.
But you believe that she's now evolved?
I do, and I think that her service as Attorney General in California and as U.S. Senator from California got her to understand the technology industry a lot better than she had perhaps when she ran initially. And that how she actually governed was not a threat to the industry.
Okay, I'm just talking about tech and things like that. There's a lot of
slightly different question for you, because we've been talking more recently about it, about sort of the shift in the way that CEOs, public company CEOs, oftentimes, obviously, you don't run a public company.
I don't.
Bill Ackman doesn't run a public company. Mark Cuban doesn't run a public company. Elon Musk does, interestingly.
Yes.
But you have something that has shifted in this world, which is public company CEOs seem to not be willing or want to enter the fray in the way that they might have before. The kind of thing maybe a Mark Zuckerberg might have said in the past. We talked about how in the old days Jamie Dimon would make donations in his own name. Warren Buffett was out on the campaign trail many years ago for Hillary Clinton, quite vocally so. And there's now big questions about, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and what's going on with endorsements or not endorsements.
Right.
So what do you think the role of a business leader should be in this election and in elections broadly?
Well, I think in this election, unfortunately, sort of a culture of fear has begun to pervade statements. I mean, when Mark is threatened by Trump with jail time over the possibility of him doing anything in the election, when Elon's got not just his thumb but his whole body weight on the scale showing Trump propaganda on X at this point, it's hard for people to say.
But nobody wants to be a fascist or a Nazi either.
Well,
do they?
They certainly don't want to be.
Right. So if they overtly or openly back Trump, they're Nazis. They're garbage.
I don't think that's the case. At least for most of the way that most people react. I think
you haven't seen people being called Nazis or fascists lately. You haven't.
I've seen a little bit of that.
A little bit.
Yeah. But I don't think that an average voter or an average executive
Let me
in
ask you
Silicon
this.
Valley takes it that
If
way.
you think that this election is as consequential as I think you do, don't you think that the people who are, frankly, the wealthiest in America should be the bulwarks? Meaning, to the extent that they should feel like they can stand up and say whatever they think. That may be, by the way, that they are voting for Trump or voting for Harris, but that this sort of everybody being beat into submission thing, is that good for democracy or not?
I think it's terrible for democracy, and I think that we need to have a major reset after this election. I think that what we're doing right now is unfortunately kind of baked, and it's not going to be pretty for the next week, and I hope that doesn't get extended much. But I do think we need a full reset in America to think about how public people make their statements about how they're voting and what they believe about democracy.
Chris, thank you for coming in this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, God bless the USA, and for former President Trump, his new income stream. CNBC's wealth reporter Robert Frank on the rise of DJT stock.
If elected, he would not only be the richest president ever, he would be the first to hold office while controlling a publicly traded company.
That's next after this break. Welcome back to Squawk Pod.
Up and Andrew, Q.
You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernen and Becky Quick. Former President Trump's stake in DJT, now worth over $6 billion, what started as a social media company became what seems to be now a meme stock and perhaps a proxy on Trump's popularity and maybe even the presidency. We'll see. Robert Frank joins us now with more on the move and the former president's new wealth vehicle. Robert, what do you think's going on here?
Well, Andrew, Donald Trump heads into this election nearly twice as wealthy as he was in the last two elections. And the reason, as you mentioned, is Trump Media. The shares of DJT more than tripling just over the past month. He owns about 57% of the company, about 114 million shares. So that stake now worth $5.9 billion as of the end of trading yesterday. They account for nearly 3/4 now of his total net worth, which is about $8 billion. Now, if elected, he would not only be the richest president ever, he would be the first to hold office while controlling a publicly traded company. The president and vice president are largely exempt from government conflict of interest rules. During his first term, he put the Trump Organization into a blind trust. You might remember that. A lawsuit involving his D.C. hotel and potential foreign interest was dismissed by the Supreme Court back in 2021 on the grounds that he had already left office. Now, with DJT, wealthy investors and governments now have a direct path to add to Trump's wealth, and they can remain anonymous. Trump saying in September he has no plans to sell the shares. The Trump campaign saying in a statement, quote, "Unlike most politicians, President Trump didn't get into politics for profit. He's fighting because he loves the people of this country and he wants to make America great again." One of the ironies here is that as of yesterday, Truth Social, parent company Trump Media, is worth the same or more as X, formerly known as Twitter. They're both around $10 billion. So that's interesting given the user base and the profile.
The question that I have, and we've talked about whether this is a proxy for his popularity in the presidential race or what it actually is. If you were trying to do this as make the business case.
Yeah, there is no business case.
Okay, that was my question. Is there is there a case to be made that if he becomes the president, that companies are going to want to advertise on said platform in a way that they didn't before, either because they think that it is, they either want to curry favor with the president, or because they think it's a great way to market their wares to individuals in a way that they didn't before?
It's possible. We haven't heard a path forward from the company on why they could even ever approach this valuation. You know, he's posting on X, so, you know, he does have that platform. The hope that sort of Truth Social would be the one capture point for all of his communications. That hasn't panned out to be true.
It moves around so much that what you just wrote and the piece you just did could be a different piece tomorrow.
It could be.
No, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we were talking about it at 16, and it went through, the lockup period had expired, and everybody thought, well, Trump's going to have to sell to take what he can get out of it because it's down from 50 to 16. And he said, that's what you've noted. He said, no, I'm not going to sell it. Next thing you turn around, it was 16 less than a month ago, and it's 50, well, it's 48. I think it's down today, 2 3/4. But so it was only worth $2 billion back then, right?
Yeah. Look, we don't know what it's going to be worth. It's very volatile. It's paper wealth, so it could disappear. But right now, it is 3/4. It is far more successful as a wealth creation machine right now today than anything else he has ever done.
Right. Back then it wasn't.
And it's 3/4.
But it's coincided with Bitcoin, the financials, and the other Trump trades too.
And I don't know. You look under the hood of who's trading this stuff. There's a lot of options. So it's not so much long-term investors that are holding it.
We don't know about the betting markets. We don't know how.
And it's moved with that. It's moved with
I mean, if someone with a lot of money, and I won't mention any names, but they could be having some influence on all these markets.
That's true. They could, with not a lot of money relative to their net worth.
I mean, even Polymarket, it's a couple of $1 billion has been bet. So, I mean, it's not a lot to some people. It'd be a lot to you or
Yeah, but the poly market thing, you know, according to the Wall Street Journal, there was one $30 million bet that.
$30 million, not,
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you're a
1%,
guy worth, I don't know, $200 billion,
right? But it
then
was
30 million
1%.
is
It was
not-
1% of what was bet.
And what you've seen some of the billionaires give to campaigns.
Right.
That's right.
$50 million.
Yep.
Upsides of that from some of the people.
Yeah, we've
too.
seen
So this is
billionaires
smaller
all
than-
together give about $2 billion in this race.
Right.
So
That's crazy.
relative to what they've given, it's not a lot. But yeah, right now the market cap is over $10 billion for DJT, and it's a company that lost $16 million in the most recent quarter. So it's not a business. And you know, people say, well, it goes to zero if he loses. What happens if he wins? To your point, Andrew, what is
Right.
the
Right.
continued bull cases? If it's a proxy in his popularity, okay, he won. Now what? So I think
Doesn't
either
translate.
way,
It's trading like a meme stock. now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Robert, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
More Squawk Pod ahead. We'll be right back. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC with Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. And here are the rest of today's stories that got us squawking.
Starbucks reporting later today. The company confirmed yesterday that it is scrapping its Aledo line of olive oil beverages. They're going to be discontinuing those in early November. That decision made before the company's new CEO, Brian Niccol, took over, but the company said the move aligns with his strategy to try to simplify the menu. Those drinks, if you remember, were launched back in February of 2023. A lot of fanfare after Howard Schultz had come back to the company and brought that idea with him. A trip to Sicily was what inspired it all, but they were met, those drinks, with mixed reactions.
Did you ever try one?
I think I did. And
I don't think I ever did.
No, I think I did in the end. And I thought it was okay, but I was not like
Order it
racing
every
to
day.
go get one. And the other thing was, if you care at all about calories,
Skyrocket.
however,
It's supposed to be
olive
good
oil
for
is
you to have
supposed to be great
olive
for you.
oil, right.
Exactly.
But you can just drink it.
Right.
Ghee. I'm telling you, I go back thousands of years.
I know.
Take my ghee.
Elon Musk's XAI is in talks with investors for a funding round that would value it at $40 billion. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. The report saying that XAI hopes to raise several $billion. Back in the spring, you may remember the company raised $6 billion at a valuation of $24 billion. The company has built what it says is the world's largest data center in Memphis, Tennessee, where it is training new versions of Grok, its AI model. And that model, for those who play with it, I'll tell you, it is moving fast. I mean, it's.
You've noticed that it's even.
You talk about somebody who has focus. I mean, this is where Elon Musk excels. I just somehow he.
You think you saw the thing land with the two things that?
No, I know. I'm saying he's
I know,
now,
but he's not a great.
It,
He's not a great CEO.
now, what did you say? No,
No.
no, he's now doing it with XAI. I mean, it's really it's pretty incredible.
It's unbelievable. Just go down the list of things. He's like Edison.
Okay, we got some news, and we got to. By the way, we should credit.
Credit Reddit.
I was
We
going to
talked
credit
about it
Reddit.
yesterday,
I was going
yeah.
to credit Reddit. I was going to credit
That
Rich
rhymes.
Greenfield
For yesterday. I know.
for talking about the benefits of what was going to go happen here. Shares of Reddit, they are on the move. Soaring is maybe the better word this morning. Earnings of 16 cents per share, beating estimates of 7-cent loss. Revenue also beat us estimates, and daily active users grew 47% year over year to 97.2 million. Company's Q4 guidance coming in above expectations. Reddit has benefited from Google search updates that now help its content get pushed a lot higher. And that's helped them bring in a flood of new users. But the company said many of those are logged out users, which generate less online ad revenue than logged in users. Stock has almost tripled in value since its IPO back in March. One interesting note, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has a stake in Reddit of about 12.2 million shares. With today's stock move, that stake is worth more than $1 billion.
Did we know that? I didn't know that.
Yep,
Wow.
we did.
And so all the AI stuff, they scour Reddit for like
That's the business.
wisdom of crowds or the inanity of crowds.
Right, and
Whatever
one of the
it is that
reasons,
you
by the
see
way,
on Reddit.
And one of the reasons is that Sam has taken, didn't take a stake in OpenAI was that he always said, I'm fine. And one of the reasons
He's
he
got
said,
enough.
I'm fine is because he has businesses like this.
Right.
When I looked at an AI thing, it said, it got me mad when I looked up myself. It had like something from a Reddit post 10 years ago that there's a move to oust, to oust Joe Kernen from Squawk. It was from 10 years ago that they decided
They were trying to oust you then, too?
They were trying to oust me then, too. 30 years. Keep trying. Keep trying. What doesn't kill you just makes you stronger.
That's the pod for today. Thanks for tuning in. There's always more Squawk to be had if you follow us on X @Squawk CNBC. You'll find video clips and highlights of our interviews there. Our TV show is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin every weekday morning on CNBC at 6 Eastern. And the best bits of that 3-hour show live forever for free on your podcast feed as long as you follow Squawk Pod, this very podcast, wherever you're listening now. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.